How do you measure learning success? By courses completed or by real improvements to skill, productivity, and revenue? See, learning isn't about passive consumption. Learning is about doing. Docebo makes it easy to create, manage, and deliver learning to every audience across the entire skills journey. Your learners will adapt faster, get more done, and grow their skills, organization, and careers. Docebo. Never stop learning.
Oxygen, 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 oxygen. We need it, we need it, we need it. Oxygen, oxygen. It's why we breathe, why we breathe.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Business Stories. You know me, you know the voice, Dr. LL, Laurelyn Mears, and what we focus on every week are stories from small businesses, small business owners, that is, because the businesses obviously can't speak for themselves, and from entrepreneurs trying to bring you new ideas, new concepts, and stories from folks who have actually done it, been there, done that. And here we've got Mark Osborne. He is the founder of Modern Revenue Strategies. And you're thinking, what does that mean? Well, he was also the author of a best-selling book, Are Your Leads Killing Your Business? And you're thinking, wait a minute, aren't leads supposed to help my business? Yeah, and thanks for the cover. For those having the visual, Mark just flashed the cover. Yeah, leads can kill you too. So Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Laurelyn. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So we just dive into it. And I always look around. I like to look at the background that people have behind. Now, I'm not talking about your background as an experience and any of that, but I'm trying to look and say, okay, what's on the walls? What are the things I see? I see some certificates. I see some awards. Of course, Ad Age, you won a very prominent award there for being a trailblazer in marketing technology, which is unbelievable. What else are we looking at on the walls and behind you?
Sure. So this is actually a small section of my tiki mug collection. I am a tiki aficionado. I actually have my own little tiki bar upstairs in the house. This is from the Ad Age award that I received. They named me a marketing technology trailblazer, putting me in the top 25 people in the world at using marketing and technology, or using data and technology for marketing and sales, RevOps, things like that. It's my diploma actually from the University of Southern California, where I did my MBA of more than 10 years ago now, as well as the invitation from my graduation ceremony. I actually have a prop katana from the Kill Bill movie series that is a bit of a long story as to how that wound up there on the shelf, as well as a copy of my book and then some other resources that I use in putting together workshops.
Oh, I love it. It's so fun to see what's behind people. And then again, because so many of our listeners are on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and whatnot, they don't have the YouTube visual experience. Of course, we talk about that too, but now they can get a better sense of, oh, Mark Osborne. All right, what's this guy? Okay, tiki guy, katana sword. Yeah, where's this going? So
That's right.
maybe that's the really good segue with the sword, because I'm thinking of Kill Bill. I'm thinking of, well, how leads are killing your business. What
Sure.
does that even mean? I
Sure.
haven't read the book, so I don't know yet. Maybe folks in our audience haven't read it, and that's very wonderful as a gesture that you're offering folks access to it. So what does it mean, Mark?
Sure, that's right. And as you said, I'm happy to give a free copy of the book to anyone that's interested. But let me tell you a little bit of, sort of the backstory. So I've been in, marketing and sales for more than 25 years. Everything from two people in a garage startups to multi-billion, multinational corporations, and really spanning from brand strategy and sort of positioning and messaging to sort of product marketing and kind of the infrastructure research RevOps component of it, even running 8, 9 figure sales teams with dozens of reps spread all around the country. And I was working with a lot of businesses that they had this sort of common mantra of, I just need more leads. I just need more leads. I just need more leads. And as I was looking at what was happening with those businesses, I realized that that wasn't really the problem, because what happens when you chase this sort of quantity, first off, it's so much more expensive to try to double the volume of leads that you're bringing in versus to double the sort of effectiveness of converting those leads from each stages. Like it's an order of magnitude, like it's 2x more expensive to double that volume than it is to double your throughput. So that was one thing that I noticed. And then the other thing that I noticed was so many companies were looking at all of their leads and essentially treating them all equal and sort of spreading their resources really thinly. And so if we think about that sort of, the iron law of oligopoly, I think is the way it's ruled, which is 20% of your clients wind up making about 80% of your revenues. Well, if you think that only a small percentage of your leads wind up converting into clients, that makes that dynamic even more dramatic. So it's something like, just 5% of your leads wind up becoming those customers that make up 80% of your revenues. And what I saw over and over was that most companies didn't have systems in place to attract the right prospects, and they instead were kind of taking whichever ones came and then grasping at straws to try to get more, and then applying their resources pretty evenly across them. Every lead kind of got the same amount of attention, got the same assignment to sort of a salesperson or whatever their process was for converting them. But their competitors did have the systems in place to attract more of those best prospects, and then to quickly identify those prospects that had the potential to be those 20% of customers that make up 80% of the revenues. So then they're putting 80% of their resources on that very small fraction of leads. They're going to win those deals. So think about, a company that's got 100 leads and each of them gets kind of 1% of their attention versus a company that's got 100 leads and the 20 that have the potential to really move the needle get 80% of the attention. You just can't compete in that kind of environment. And so the problem now is the companies that don't have those systems, they're left with the scraps, essentially the opportunities that their competitors don't want. And those wind up being killer clients, and they can kill you in 3 different ways. The first is, and sometimes I do this talk around Halloween, and I'll use sort of the slasher films. The first is that classic slasher where they don't believe in the product or solution that you're delivering. And so as a result, they want you to really cut the price for them because they don't see the value that you're going to deliver there. And as a result, because they've worn you down so much on price, you can't reinvest in improving your product or service. Well, your competitors are reinvesting in improving their product and service because they have healthy margins. And so you're getting pulled further behind the competition. So those leads can kill your business in that way. The next, to stick with our horror story analogy, is sort of like Jigsaw from the Saw movies, the customizer. Remember, he customized the torture devices for all of his victims. And those customizers, they, again, don't really believe in the product or service that you're delivering. So they want you to customize it just to them. Well, you know what the market wants, and that's what you want to build. But when these folks make you invest in customizing it to them, that pulls you further behind your competition and further away from what you know the market wants. So that can kill you as well. And then the final sort of killer client is kind of the Freddy Krueger, the churn and burn. And they actually have, sort of 2 things to them, which is they're going to churn out and burn you out because before they ever provide advocacy or a testimonial or a referral, they're going to leave. And oftentimes they are also the ones that ground you down on rate or made you customize. And so they're burning out your team and churning out before they ever help you sort of establish yourself as a leader in the category. So when your client base is just made up of these kind of 3 killer clients, that long, slow death spiral. You're super busy. You've got clients, but they aren't profitable. They're making you build things the market doesn't want, and then they're churning out before ever advocating for you. And as a result, you wind up really dying. And I've seen so many companies fall into that trap of, I need more leads, more leads, more leads. They wind up getting the quantity instead of the quality that creates this long, slow death spiral that winds up killing their business.
That's absolutely it. And as you were talking about, the slasher, the Freddy Krueger, right? All of that. I'm like, oh yeah, she's that. He's
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, I bet you can
right?
see those folks in your mind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll never be able to look at them the same, when I have a conversation with them. But to that end, that's one of the things that I've been doing and evolving in my business is making those decisions where, hey, you know what? It's okay that we're not going to move forward as a client because
That's right.
the opportunity really isn't there. Maybe we're just not a fit. I wish you well, good luck, go forth and prosper, right?
That's right. That's right.
And cutting yourself loose from those killers. But it's also where I think what you've tapped into here is the difficulty that I've seen that folks have in trying to identify who is my ideal buyer. Yeah, I sell to them and I sell to them and I do that and I do this. That's one piece. And then the other piece is they're too broad. Yes, I'm a consultant. Oh, are you now?
Right.
Great, right? The riches are in the niches. We all know this from Tony Robbins and everybody else. So talk to us about how folks can move forward better dialed into who their ideal customer is and start
Yeah.
queuing people up. What's that process they should be going through so they have fewer killer customers?
Sure. So I bet that this story is going to sound familiar to either you or some of your listeners, which is, someone works in an industry for a while, they have an idea for a better mousetrap, so they go found a company to create that mousetrap. And then they know what's right about that because they just built it, and they know what's wrong about the competition because they used to work there. And they've got enough of a Rolodex that they can get some clients. And so they get some clients and they start growing. But then they hit this wall. And the first thing that they do when they hit that sort of revenue or growth wall is they hire a salesperson and they say, be exactly like me and we'll double our revenues. But that doesn't really work out. And we'll talk about why that doesn't work out. Oftentimes, the next thing that they do is they hire an ad agency or a media agency. And so they spend some money, but that doesn't really work out because they wind up saying the wrong thing or to the wrong people or both. And that's the first piece that they're missing often is that strategy on who do they address and then what do they say to that's really compelling. And then the reason why that sales piece didn't work is they then need to have after they have that strategy of who do we speak to and what do we say, then they need to have a process that sort of takes that sale from beginning to end because sales isn't an event, it is a process, it's a system that takes place. So how do companies overcome this? The first thing that we see so often is that companies haven't thought through their unique position in the marketplace. And we like to call it only-ness, which is a phrase Marty Neumeier came up with. But fundamentally, it's what makes you the only company in your category that either does it a certain way or has a certain process or has a certain background or even just has a certain point of view on why this is the right way to solve a particular problem. And what we see that happens is oftentimes companies will say, well, I'm really good at hammering nails. And so I'm going to go out and hang out my shingle and say, if you need nails hammered, call me. And then they talk about the benefits of having nails hammered. But anybody could hammer that nail. What they have to do instead is to think about what are my customers really looking for? Well, they're looking for constructed buildings, or they're looking for constructed furniture, or there's lots of things that you could use that skill at hammering nails to do. You got to think about which one am I actually best at? Is it building furniture or is it building houses? And then as my looking for that specific thing, what are their other options? That's the other thing that companies so often fail to do is they sort of what I call navel gaze. They look down and they're like, what am I really good at? All right, that's what I'm going to go sell. They don't think about, well, what's my customer's other options? And then how am I different than those other options? And when you think about difference, you really want to dive into how are you only, because only creates a category of one versus better, faster, stronger, cheaper is very, very hard for a customer to measure from the outside. You really have to be such an expert that you've already bought and consumed the product before you can tell which one's better, faster, or cheaper. Because cheaper is really about the value that you get, not the price tag that's on it. And so by taking the time to really understand that customer, what they're looking for, really understand the competitive landscape and what their other options are, and then really look deeply at yourself and say, what are the things about the way that I hammer nails, about the way that I build furniture, about the other partners that I work with in building that furniture? Is it the type of wood that you use, or the type of nails that you use, or the sort of form and function of that furniture that you're creating that is different than what's in the marketplace, but that still fits with what your customers are looking for? It's finding that only-ness that then creates that strategic position and that market that you can approach, so that you can now build a process for marketing and sales that emphasizes your unique capabilities and the way that that delivers unique benefits to your customer.
Ooh, I like that. And I love how you've distilled it down. It reminds me of, Simon Sinek, right? He's built a multi-million dollar
Start
business
with
on
why.
start with
Yeah.
why. And you're saying start with only, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's basically, now I know you said, Mark, there was another creator behind this, but which I think is great that you've also acknowledged that somebody else is out there, because we have to do that. We can't be like, oh, it's mine. I came up
Sure.
with it, because
Sure.
this is the internet. People will find it, they'll Google it, and they will cancel you.
That's right. Well, and also, like, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. And folks, what I have found is that it's less about inventing something new and more about helping people implement good ideas wherever they might come from.
Right. And really trying to get dialed into who is your audience, and
That's right.
does my audience relate with me? There's a lot of volume out there in every
Yeah,
niche, right? Every single offer out there. You don't have one choice, you've got gabillions of choices.
that's
And
right.
right. And especially now, as we're drifting away from that 9 to 5, where everyone wants to be an entrepreneur because of the freedom, wink,
That's
wink,
right.
nudge, nudge, that it brings, right? And so I think it's about trying to find what is your audience. Do people like how you sound? Do they like how you look? Do they like the messages you use? All of that is really part of it, because you said sales is a process. And I see too many people, entrepreneurs, drop off. Yeah, made the sale. Next, deliver the thing, deliver the widget, deliver the widget. But it's got to keep going.
That's
Talk
right.
to us about the importance of the after the sale.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few components here, and the first is that so many businesses, are really sort of chasing that exponential growth curve, and that's why they want more leads, more leads, more leads, because they think this sort of linear relationship. I put more in, and then more sales come out. But what they're missing is the renewal and expansion opportunities that exist with their existing customers. And so instead of stopping at that first sale, think about how you can create sort of continuous impact for that customer. So not just the one time, but multiple times. And I can give you an example of, so many businesses are like, well, I deliver a thing, and then once that thing's delivered, how do I make more money off of those customers? Great example is this roofing company. You install a roof, well, it's supposed to last for 10 years. How am I supposed to sell them something else? And they actually were in a position where they were trying to sell the company and go to market. So if you think about the value of a company, it's largely based on, what do they make, their earnings or their revenue, times some multiple, because a business is going to operate for some time. So they made $1 million last year. Let's say the multiple is, sort of 3. So that business that does $1 million a year is worth 3 million on the open market. But because they are, sort of one-time sales, that scares away potential buyers, because they're like, how do I go out and sell all these, sort of roofing contracts to people? So now they're really only willing to spend 2 times the multiple, so $2 million. So this roofing company had this realization that, man, not having long-term contracts really hurts our cash flow. It really hurts the predictability of our revenue for potential purchasers. We've got all these ladders. So instead of charging $100 for the roof, let's sell the roof for $80. And obviously, these numbers need a lot of zeros on them.
That's
Sell the
insane.
roof for $80, and then a $10 a year subscription. We'll come back every month and clean your windows, and we'll clean all the gutters as well. So now they've got the best price in the market for redoing roofs, makes that big sale a lot easier. And they've deferred that cost into subscriptions for cleaning the gutters and cleaning the windows. So they keep an ongoing relationship with those customers. So now, and that instead of that $1 million devaluation, they've actually increased it up to a 4x valuation. So they made $2 million on the value of their business just by changing the delivery model, by thinking about after that first sale, how do we make renewals and referrals and expansion revenue? Not only that, but it deepens their relationship with their customer, because now that roofing company can come and say, hey, we're here for your annual gutter cleaning. I notice your neighbor over there has a sagging roof line. How well do you know him? You're really happy with the roof we gave for you. How about a recommendation and referral there? So just thinking about some of those dynamics really changes the landscape and creates a lot more opportunity. Those S-shaped curves that companies are always looking for really rapid growth, that only comes from renewal and expansion growth. In fact, most companies that are in sort of a high growth mode, they surpass their sort of first time sale revenue with their renewal revenue by about year 5, if not earlier. And then their expansion revenue surpasses that by about year 7. And so you really can't achieve that really sort of rapid growth that most folks are looking for if you're only selling one-time experiences and not thinking about how do I continue to make an impact for those customers so that I can continue to make revenue from them.
Two comments. One quick one. Clearly, you're dialing in from California and talking about roofers there, because I would have added, and we'll shovel the snow off.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Right?
Well,
that's so important.
I'll give you a little, I guess shovel snow off the roof.
Yes, as part of that
I
subscription.
thought you were saying shovel in the driveway.
No.
Oh, yeah.
That recurring cost, because
That's right.
And roofs are scary to go up on.
That's
a lot of them have very, very sharp slopes, steep slopes. You certainly don't want to be up there with the snow and ice. I'm in the Northeast up here, and we get snow on the roofs. And then some people have flatter roofs, and that just creates all of the extra weight. And then there's going to be damage, blah, blah, blah. There's that piece of it, right? That's the key thing. And I was also going to say our audience may not be aware because I didn't introduce you as such, but Mark Osborne, folks, is a certified exit planner. So he's all about trying to figure out, just like he described, if you're only going to be a 2x, but what can we do to make you a 4x multiplier? And not only will you get more value and more money in your pockets when I help you sell your business, but my commission will be bigger, right? Because that's how we're driven. It makes sense.
That's right.
Anyway, so those comments, but this is the whole thing where you were going with that is, and I know this is one of your mantras about how do entrepreneurs make that switch, that mindset from, I'm trying to just build top line revenue, more this year, more last year, but really start thinking about building enterprise value. Yeah. And talk to us about that, because that's a really important thing you lecture about, speak about, pontificate about.
Sure. It's all about systems. And we have a phrase around here that, systems set you free. And we are really big believers that by creating around your revenues, and we actually think about it in terms of 3 interlocking systems. It's the attraction systems. You attract more of the right prospects. Remember, the quality, not just quantity.
And not killer clients.
That's right.
Attract killers coming into our business. Yeah.
That's right. That's kind of typical marketing stuff. And then the acceleration systems. How do you accelerate your best deals and opportunities through the sales pipeline? Kind of typical sales stuff. And then activation systems. How do you activate your existing clients for fast renewals, larger upsells, but also more referrals and testimonials, advocacy in the marketplace? And we see those as interconnected sets of systems. And one of the things that we don't do is we, oftentimes will say, you could hire a marketing person that just worked on the marketing pieces. It'll never be as good as someone that takes a holistic view and thinks about all three of those interlocking systems. Now, you probably don't have the bandwidth, either mentally or pocketbook, to work on all three systems at once. And so, what we oftentimes do, and I talk about this in the book, is we'll do a diagnostic to understand, well, which of those three sets of systems is your biggest opportunity today. Let's fix that. Then we move to the next one, and then we move to the next one, and then we work on sort of unifying them across all three. But it creates a lot more collaboration within the company as you integrate marketing, sales, and sort of customer success, renewal, expansion revenues. And you get insights from each of those areas into the other, because your customer success team that's working on those renewals and expansion has real insight into what your customers love about you, oftentimes insight that maybe marketing doesn't have. And so when they're able to funnel that into marketing, marketing can shift the messaging a little bit that does a better job of attracting those best customers that are going to stay with you forever. And when sales understands those real differentiators that makes people stay with you forever, they can do a better job of moving deals through the pipeline faster and at a higher conversion rate. But it comes from this, really holistic approach that creates collaboration and alignment.
Is it fair to ask, is there one of the three phases that clients tend to get stuck on most often? Is there any pattern?
Absolutely. So it depends on where you are on your growth curve. So we see very frequently, so companies trying to get to that kind of first million in revenue, they're really struggling for that product market fit, which is that sort of attraction systems. They haven't really understood their customer and their competitive landscape and their only-ness enough to tell the story that's bringing in enough of that volume, that's attracting a large enough volume of those customers. And then to sort of break through at about sort of 5 million, we see that it's a real go-to-market motion, which integrates both the attraction systems as well as the acceleration systems, moving those deals through the sales pipeline. It's really integrated so that you can stomp on the gas, so that you've got a well-worn system where $1 in equals $3 out every time. And you know how that works. It's that go-to-market fit. So product market fit to get to that million, go-to-market fit to break through 5, 10 is really sort of that next stage of growth. And then that next stage of growth is really around those activation systems. And one of the things that we so often see is that companies are sitting on a very large, valuable, and underutilized resource, which is their existing customer base. Because they'll say, well, a lot of our business comes from referrals. That's awesome. How do you get those referrals? Well, they just come in. Well, that seems like a real wasted opportunity. Why don't we ask for them at the right way, at the right time? What a big difference that can make. Likewise, a lot of our business comes from repeat customers and upselling our existing customers. Okay, what's your process for renewals and expansion? Well, we just kind of get in there and do good work for them, and they want to give us more money. Well, by building a process around that where you systematically identify the ways that you can add more value to them and systematically ask for that and show them the value that they're missing out on by not engaging with you deeper, that's how you really get that growth that becomes really predictable and scalable.
I think that's one of the areas that entrepreneurs, I find, really get stuck on, is that predictability. Right? Do you know? Oh, okay. And people get asked, and so I've been in software land for a long time, and it's all about like, oh, what's your churn rate? So you need to know how many are coming in, how many are going out, and then it just gets to be so part of the day-to-day routine. They just expect, yeah, we'll bring on 10, 20 a day. We'll probably lose 5 to 10 within the 30 days. Like it's so normal. You just don't even really think about it in that way that we should. Right. And so when I look and I hear that, I think that people maybe on this podcast, hopefully are getting the value out of that and the message. Well, wait a minute, you've really got to think about the longevity here. How do you keep making it work? Don't be a one and done. I have folks, clients, entrepreneurs that I talk to that I mentor through the New Jersey Business Center here. Like, yeah, I just sell hair care, and I just sell them a product after they've had their hair relaxed, that they buy this product, kind of a one and done. I'm like, well, are there ways that you can do that differently? Can you, find ways that there's some other add-ons, then it's the gloss up, then it's this, or whatever else it is, right? That there's a way to extend the sale no matter which widget you sell. Would you agree?
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that roofing example that I gave, the other one, today it's so easy to create software. Like, you don't have to be a coder. You can drag and drop. You can talk to Claude or Chat GPT and just tell it what you want it to do, and it'll create software for you. And one of the examples that I give all the time is the accountant that, once a year they do your taxes, and then they hope that you're going to buy again the next year, versus the accountant that says, hey, here's a little bit of software that'll help you keep track of your receipts and expenses. And in fact, we'll give you a little bit of recommendations as you go along on how you should be classifying these things to ensure that your taxes are easier, faster, and cheaper. Same example as the roofer. They do your taxes for a little less if you subscribe for using this software that actually improves your life by helping you keep track of your expenses. And then you get better tax benefits when the time comes. Now you've got a subscription service instead of a one-time engagement.
What do you advise our listeners who we do have a lot of coaches, therapists, things like this that are building a practice through multiples, right? It's therapist one, coach two, coach three, et cetera. And so they're building practices in that way. But that kind of service business doesn't scale well because you still have to put the 45 to 50 minutes in with the client and then do the 10 minutes of notes or, whatever else. How can they collectively take advantage of the concepts where you're building enterprise value, you're thinking of multipliers and exit, thinking of killer clients, right? All that stuff, Mark. How can it work for them? Is there a way?
Absolutely. And the way that we think about it when we're working with folks like that is we oftentimes find it comes from that only-ness. So think about what is it that makes you, for a particular customer, better than all the other options they have in the competitive landscape at delivering the benefits that they care about. And we talk about it as like a proprietary proven process, those 3 Ps. Like, what is it that you have that's proprietary, only you have it, it's proven, you deliver results, and it's a process which inspires confidence from your customers that you can deliver that. That's your intellectual property. And oftentimes it's a very simple task of just sort of really formalizing what you do that makes you special into a process that you can, then copyright or trademark and protect as intellectual property, and then train other people in how to deliver it. The value that you bring into the world is coming up with that proprietary proven process. But there are oftentimes lots of practitioners that could deliver that process with your oversight now that you've developed it. They don't have the experience or the insight that you had to develop it, but they could deliver it. And so then that creates that opportunity for scale of you can bring in more clients than you are individually helping because other folks can help you with delivering pieces of that process, which then creates an opportunity for you to have a bigger impact and ultimately to bring more value into the world.
When did the light bulb go off or on, I guess, as the case may be? We always say go off, which is a weird thing because it's when the light bulb goes on that you realize, yeah, I need to be a systems guy.
So I'm very lucky that I was raised. My dad was a PhD engineer, and my mom has multiple master's degree in fine arts and counseling. So I had that right brain integration very early on. And, a lot of kids played catch with their dad. I did science fair experiments. A lot of kids went, to lunch or tea with their mom. I did painting and sculpture and art projects, and so I had a lot of that integration. But it's just always been so innate to follow a process for me that, in fact, I didn't even realize that was different than how other people might go about it until I was, kind of late in my ongoing education and learning and things. And it's really been only recently that I realized the value of it in helping other folks. And one of the things when I was very early in my career was always really enamored with, sort of the brand strategists, the folks that would come up with like, what's that killer angle that just makes this product, magnetically attract those right customers. And I really thought of it as like alchemy, like they're turning, lead into gold. But I realized, but then I had the privilege to work with some really best in class folks that have done that for the biggest brands in the world and done those things. And I realized it's a repeatable process that they do over and over. And the order matters. You got to understand the customer first. All marketing starts with the marketplace, and it requires some empathy muscles that not everyone has good, but you can build those muscles. And then it requires some, an analysis of the competitive landscape that we've talked about. And that requires some creative synthesis of seeing the gaps and sort of weaving together the threads and thinking about yourself in a creative way of finding that only-ness. But it's not, sort of magic as much as it is process.
And that's just it, right? It is rinse, repeat. Everybody talks about, the passive income. There's a lot of work. You can get to rinse, repeat. If you systematize it, right, you can
That's right.
repeat it. As a PhD scientist myself, I learned the hard way after many, many, many failed years at the bench. Just, I'm just going to do this. I'll skip this thing. You can't skip the steps. No,
That's right.
Right? You're like, oh, look what happens when I skip that step. Wow, that blew up. There's 3 months of work down the drain, right? And so I get it. So as we're wrapping up our show, Mark, where can people find you? Where can they get your book? Give us some information, the coordinates.
Sure. So free copy of the book, Are Your Leads Killing Your Business? All you got to do is go to modernrevenuestrategies.com. That's my website, /free download. Free copy of the book. Not only will you get the full book, you'll get all of the templates and calculators so that you can start implementing these systems in your business today. And as well as there's sort of checklists at the end of every chapter so you can grade yourself and score and really see what to do next. And anyone that downloads the book there, you'll get an email from me asking how you liked it. Or if you want to just sort of email me directly, just send me a note at mark@modernrevenuestrategies.com. That's Mark with a K.
Excellent. Yeah, we've got to do that, right? I always forget. It's like, well, I'm looking at it. I see you on the Zoom as we're recording. I see the K loud and clear, but people are in their car listening on Spotify or whatever choice their streaming platform is. So with that, our signature question as we wrap this show, Mark, if we looked in your closet, are we looking at tiki shirts? Like, what are we looking at, right? That as far as footwear, clothing, accessories, something that personifies who you, Mark Osborne, is.
So I'll tell you a little story on myself. Almost my entire closet is black shirts of some variation or another, because at some point earlier in my life, I just sort of realized like I keep going to like the same black shirt. And so I actually bought like 5 of my favorite black shirt once. And then I was like, I need a little more variety. But now it's all kind of a variation on a black shirt. Is what my entire closet looks like. Even my tiki shirts are like sort of like a black shirt with a little splash of color, or a black outline of tiki flowers or things like that. So that's probably the little bit of story you learned from my closet.
There we go. Because everyone's got one. Everyone's got a story, right? Every closet.
That's
and,
right.
If you're the eclectic squirrel like I am, you'd come into my closet and go, what the? I'm like, yeah, well, that reflects the head, right? So there we go. So with that, Mark Osborne, founder of Modern Revenue Strategies, thank you so much for being on the show and for offering folks a copy of your best-selling book, Are Your Leads Killing You, that they can get at modernrevenuestrategies.com/free download. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Laura Lynn.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?
Are you noticing your car insurance rate creep up even without tickets or claims? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry handles the legwork by comparing quotes side by side from over 50 top insurers so you can confidently hit buy. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Jerry even tracks rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Don't settle for higher rates. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/libsyn today. That's jerry.ai/libsyn.